Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaredari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaredari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivaredari Jaya Girivaredari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivaredari Jaya Girivaredari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarishata Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarishata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Harirat Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Mathuradam Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Gita Nagari Dham Ki Jai Gangamayi Chamuramayi Ki Jai तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, श्री हरिनाम सैनिक कीर्तन की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Oh, Krishna. Well, Yashadev Prabhu, looks like it's just you and me. Oh, boy. All transcendentally orchestrated by Shri Radha Damodar. So I have forfeited my japa period. And we have no one in attendance. I wonder if anyone's going to show up. Well, we will have fun by ourselves, of course. And if you were not here, we would be obliged to speak to the four walls. Perhaps some microbes would benefit, and in any case, Srila Prabhupada's instruction would be satisfied. So, okay, that's good. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 20, and we're going to cover texts 6 through 13, I think. Looks that way. So, lots of reading. This must all be just orchestrated for my purification. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Wild situations, crazy circumstances. Well, where am I here? I am lost. I beg you please to bear with me because I am extremely disorganized, disoriented, and I actually have not even read through these texts. I mean, the last time I saw these texts was, I don't know, probably decades ago. So um, I haven't even, I didn't even look at them. I looked at, because you mentioned text 13, I took a look at that and thought a little bit about Srila Prabhupada's purport, but I haven't seen the rest of these verses. So text 6, I'm going to attempt to read through this, but it's no meter, of course, and I have no idea. Oh, I'm jumping the gun here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nasta Praishva Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So text 6, Lakshadishu Panchashu Purushanam Ayur Indriyam Oja Sahobalam Hudir Vikarma Itija Sarvesham Outpatiki Siddhir Avisheshena Vartate. Shall I read the synonyms? You know, it was Srila Prabhupada's standard system, and there was never any deviation from this routine back in the day, that always the text was read, and usually the system was the speaker would read, he would read each word of the text, and everyone would repeat it word by word. Then he or she would speak the entire text several times, and then devotees would take turns repeating the entire text. And then, without deviation, the synonyms would be read. And Srila Prabhupada wanted everyone to hear all of this with attention, and including the synonyms, because by hearing the synonyms, that was Srila Prabhupada hoped the way that we would gradually learn the Sanskrit language. We'd learn the meaning of the words, which which carry profound meaning. Srila Prabhupada would often give classes just by breaking down the meaning of each word and explaining the import of that meaning. So he wanted us all to hear the synonyms as well. Anyway, I'll read the synonyms. Plaksha Adishu, in the islands headed by Plaksha. Panchasu, 5. Purushanam, of the inhabitants. Ayuhu, long duration of life. Indriyam, soundness of the senses. Ojaha, bodily strength. Saha, mental strength. Balam, physical strength. Buddhi, intelligence. Vikramaha, bravery. Iti, thus. Cha, also. Sarvesham, of all of them. Outpatiki, inborn. Siddhi, perfection. Avisheshena, without distinction. Vartate, exists. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. O King, longevity, sensory prowess, physical and mental strength, intelligence, and bravery are naturally and equally manifested in all the inhabitants of the 5 islands headed by Lakshadweep. Text 7. Plaksha samane nekshu raso denavrito yata tata dvipo pi salmalo dviguna vishala samanena suro denavrita hari vrinte. The synonyms. Plakshaha, the land known as Plakshadweep. Samena, equal in width. Ikshurasa, of sugarcane juice. Udena, by an ocean. Avrita, surrounded. Yata, just as. Tata, similarly. Dvipaha, another island. Api, also. Salmala, known as Salmala. Dviguna Vishala, twice as big. Samena, equal in width. Sura Udena, by an ocean of liquor. Avritaha, surrounded. Pravrinte, exists. Translation. Lakshadweepa is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice, equal in breadth to the island itself. Similarly, there is then another island, Salmali Dvipa, twice as broad as Lakshadweepa, 400,000 yojanas, or 3,200,000 miles, and surrounded by an equally broad body of water called Sora Sagara, the ocean that tastes like liquor. Text 8. Yatra havai salmari prakshayama yasyam vava kila nilayam ahur bhagavatash chandra shruta patatri rajasyasa dvipa hutaye upada lakshyate. The synonyms: yatra, where; haivai, certainly; salmali, a salmali tree; praksha ayama, as big as the plaksha tree, 100 yojanas broad and 1,100 yojanas high. It's a very big tree. Yasyam, in which; vava kila, indeed; nilayam, rest or living place; ahu, they say; Bhagavata, of the most powerful; Chandra Stutaha, who worships the Lord by Vedic prayers; Patatri Rajasya, of Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu; Sa, that tree; Dvipa Hutaye, for the name of the island; Upalakshyate, is distinguished. Translation: on Salmali Dvipa, there is a Salmali tree from which the island takes its name. That tree is as broad and tall as the plaksha tree. In other words, 100 yojanas, 800 miles broad, and 1,100 yojanas, 8,800 miles tall. Learned scholars say that this gigantic tree is the residence of Garuda, the king of all birds and carrier of Lord Vishnu. In that tree, Garuda offers Lord Vishnu his Vedic prayers. Text 9. Tvadvipa dhipati priya vratatmajo yagya bahu sva sutebhya saptabhyas tan namani sapta varshani vya bhajat sorochanam somanasyam ramanakam deva varsham paribhajram apyayanam avigyatam iti. Synonyms: Tad Dvipa Adipatihi, the master of that island; Priyavrata Atmaja, the son of Maharaj Priyavrata; Yagya Bahu, named Yagya Bahu; Swa Sutebhya, unto his sons; Saptabhya, 7 in number; Tat Damani, having names according to their names; Saptavarshani, 7 tracts of land; Vyabhajat, divided; Surochanam, Surochana; Salmanasyam, Somanasya; Ramanakam, Ramanaka; Devavarsham, Devavarsha; Paribhajram, Paribhajra; Apyayanam, Apayana; Avigyatam, Avigyata, iti, thus. Translation: the son of Maharaj Priyavrata, named Yagyabahu, the master of Salmali Dvipa, divided the island into 7 tracts of land which he gave to his 7 sons. The names of those divisions, which correspond to the names of the sons, are Sarochana, Manasya, Ramanaka, Devavarsha, Paribhajra, Apayana, and Avigyata. Text 10. Teshu Varsha Drayo Nadascha Saptaiva Bhigyata Sarvasha Shastringo Vamadeva Kundo Mukunda Pushpavarsha Sahasra Shrutir iti Aumati Sini Vali Sarasvati Kuhu Rajaninanda Raketi. Synonyms: Teshu, in those; Varsha, tracts of land; Ajraya, mountains; Nadya, cha, as well as rivers; Sapta Eva, 7 in number; Abhigyataha, understood; Sarvashaha, Sarasa, Shatashringa, Satashringa, Vamadeva, Vamadeva, Kunda, Kunda, Mukunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, Pushpavarsha, Sahasra Shruti, Iti, thus, Almati, Almati, Sinivali, Sinivali, Sarasvati, Sarasvati, Kuhu, Kuhu, Rajani, Rajani, Nanda, Nanda, Raka, Raka, E.T., thus, translation. In those tracts of land there are 7 mountains, Svarasa, Shatashringa, Vamadeva, Kunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, and Sahasra Shruti. There are also 7 rivers, Almati, Sinivali, Saraswati, Kuhu, Rajani, Nanda, and Raka. They are still existing. Text 11. Tadvarsha Purusha Shrutadara Viryadhara Vasundare Shandhara Samgya Bhagavantam Veda Mayam Somam Atmanam Vedena Yajante. Synonyms. Tadvarsha Purusha, the residents of those tracts of land. Shrutadara, Viryadhara, Vasundara, Isandra, Samgya, known as Bhagavantam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Veda Mayam, fully conversant with the Vedic knowledge, Somam Atmanam, represented by the living entity known as Soma, Vedena, by following the Vedic rules and regulations, Yajante, they worship, strictly following the cult of Varnashram Dharma, translation, strictly following the cult of Varnashram Dharma, the inhabitants of those islands, who are known as Shrutidaras, Viryadharas, Vasundaras, Ishandaras, and Ishandaras, all worship the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead named Soma, the moon god. Text 12. Sva gobihi pitr de vebhyo Vibajan Krishna Suklayo Rajanam Sarvasam Raja Vinda Somo Na Ashtriti. The synonyms. Swagopihi, by expansion of his own illuminating rays. Pitra Devebhya, under the Pitas and the demigods. Vibhajan, dividing. Krishna Shuklayo, into the 2 fortnights, dark and light. Rajanam, of the citizens. Sarvasham, of all. Raja, the king. Andaha, food grain. Soma, the moon god. Naha, toward us. Astu, let him remain favorable. E.T., thus. Translation. The inhabitants of Salmali Dvipa worship the demigod of the moon in the following words. By his own rays, the moon god has divided the month into 2 fortnights, known as Shukla and Krishna, for the distribution of food grains to the Pitas and the demigods. The demigod of the moon is he who divides time, and he is the king of all the residents of the universe. We therefore pray that he may remain our king and guide, and we offer him our respectful obeisances. Text 13. Evam Suradad Bahis Tadvi Guna Samanena Vrito Grito Dena Yata Bhurva Kushadvipo Yasmin Kushastambo Deva Gritastad Advipak Yakaro Jvalana Eva Para Shashva Rochisha Disho Viraja Yati. Synonyms. Evam, thus. Surodat, from the ocean of liquor. Bahihi, outside. Tat Dvi Gunaha, twice that. Samena, equal in width. Avrita, surrounded. Grita Udena, an ocean of clarified butter. Yata Purvaha, as previously with Salmali Dvipa. Kusha Dvipa, the island called Kusha Dvipa. Yasmin, in which. Kusha Stambaha, Kusha grass. Deva, Kritaha, created by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tat Dvipa Akya Gharaha, giving the island its name. Jvalaraha, fire. Eva, like. Aparaha, another. Sva Shashpada Rochisha, by the effulgence of the young sprouting grass. Dishaha, all directions. Virajayati, illuminates. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Outside the ocean of liquor is another island known as Kushadvip, which is 800,000 yojanas, or 6,400,000 miles wide, as twice as wide as the ocean of liquor. As Salmali Dvipa is surrounded by a liquor ocean, Kushadvipa is surrounded by an ocean of liquid ghee as broad as the island itself. On Kushadvipa, there are clumps of kusha grass from which the island takes its name. The kusha grass, which was created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord, appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. Its young shoots illuminate all directions. Purport. From the descriptions in this verse, we can make an educated guess about the nature of the flames on the moon. Like the sun, the moon must also be full of flames, but because without flames there cannot be illumination. The flames on the moon, however, unlike those on the sun, must be mild and pleasing. This is our conviction. The modern theory that the moon is full of dust is not accepted in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. In regard to this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Shashpani Sukomala Shikhas Desham Rochisa. The kusha grass illuminates all directions, but its flames are very mild and pleasing. This gives some idea of the flames existing on the moon. Om Jnana Tibrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurnamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Vishtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Vayam Dadati Swabdantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Shya. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh Krishna. Well, yeah, Shri Prabhu, we briefly had someone else present, but we're on our own once again. This is wild. Never before have I ever given a class with a single person in attendance. It's never happened. I guess their lordships want to restrict my sound vibration exclusively to those who are sufficiently advanced to be able to sift out the garbage like a swan, only fit to be heard by the Paramahamsas, who can eliminate all the garbage and extract the whatever little nectar might be there. Oh, JP has joined us. Now we are 3. Okay, so bunch of extraordinary descriptions here. These are fantastic descriptions, which I think it's safe to say that most people in this contemporary age would find to be well, fantastical, extraordinary. Most people would not believe it. They'd think it's ridiculous. This is some kind of bizarre mythology. But it's we are to understand that this is factual. We may have no experience in our life of such extraordinary things as an ocean of ghee or an ocean of liquor, trees hundreds of thousands of miles high, and just extraordinary grass that has a appears like a mild flame, um, with a pleasing uh, emanation. Extraordinary. Um, Sometimes Srimad Bhagavatam gives analogous uh, descriptions, but I don't think that's the case here. I think we are expected to accept this as literal fact, and one could offer all kinds of speculation, but we don't do that. At least Srila Prabhupada taught us not to waste our time with useless speculation, but to just simply accept the version of Shastra and the previous acharyas. So, as far as I am aware, all of our acharyas have accepted these descriptions to be factual. Srila Prabhupada certainly did, and um, this may serve as a test for some. I have heard accounts of some devotees losing their faith in the process of Krishna consciousness upon hearing some of the descriptions given in the fifth canto. They were just unable to accept that these things are factual. Maybe that's why we have so few devotees in attendance today. Perhaps they are being spared something which might shake their faith, but that's another speculation, and I shouldn't venture there, but uh, certainly extraordinary descriptions. When I first read Srila Prabhupada's purport, I looked at this briefly on Friday night, having been prompted by Yashadev Prabhu, and I noted that he talked about making an educated guess, which is uncharacteristic of Srila Prabhupada, who, as I mentioned, was a stickler about accepting actual fact given in Shastra and coming in into subject succession from our acharyas. He didn't speculate on things, but here he is talking about making an educated guess. And I want to say that when Srila Prabhupada says, in this case, an educated guess, it's not really an educated guess. This is he's There's more to this story that we don't find in this purport, and I want to add some of that context if I can find it here now. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. And bear with me because I'm having hardware problems. My computer is giving me trouble. It hangs up every few seconds for a long time, and I need to replace it. But so there was a lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave in um, Honolulu back in what was it, 76. He did a tour in 76. Um, he had been in India, and then can't recall which month it was. It was after the Mayapur festival. He did a tour of the West, and it was during that tour that he also visited Gita Nagari. So passing through Hawaii, he gave a lecture, and in that lecture, he said the following words. Vasudha. Vasudha means planet. Just like this is also Vasudha, this planet here. We can see there are so many millions of planets. At night, we can see, and each of them is peculiar, different from the others. Why they have failed to utilize the moon planet? It is a different atmosphere. It is different atmosphere. These rascals cannot go there. It is not possible. They have simply made false propaganda. They cannot go there. So because the atmosphere is different, there is also blazing fire surrounded by ice. That is the description. I am speaking from the description, and therefore at night it is so pleasing. You have got experience, fire coming through ice, the rays, that is very pleasing. Therefore, sunshine is making the whole thing very hot, and the moonshine making them pleasing. So God's arrangement is so nice that everything is going on nicely. There is brain behind it. Why there is sunshine, why there is moonshine, everything is described. You'll read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, moon is the cause of vegetation, and there is no vegetation. Just see, moon is the cause of vegetation in all planets, and they say there is no vegetation. It is simply dust. So we have to believe that. And when you present actual facts, it is mysticism or mythology. Anyway, we are not concerned with their statements. Our process is to know things from the Shastra. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vakya, Tine Te Karya Aikya. Our process is deductive, not inductive. We take knowledge, just like this Srimad Bhagavatam written by Vyasadeva under the instructions of his guru, spiritual master, Narada. So Narada advised him that you have written so many books, Puranas, Vedas, Vedanta, but Vyasadeva said, still, I am not feeling very satisfied. So Narada Muni advised him that you are not feeling satisfied because you have not described about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the defect. So now you have got mature experience. You describe simply about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So therefore, he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. So each verse we are reading, suppose one verse daily or two verse daily. So 18,000 verses, how long it will take? At least 9,000 days. 9,000 days, how many years? One devotee speculates 7 years. Someone else says 3 years. Krishna says between 25 and 30 years. Anyway, I think I've heard Srila Prabhupada at times say 50 years. I haven't done the math myself. I'll leave that to you. But the point I wanted to make in quoting this discussion, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the light produced by a flame, and his contention is that you cannot have light, you can't have radiation without a radiative source. It's got to be a source, and so it's going to be some sort of fire, some sort of flame, and he would categorize even electricity as fire. So there's got to be a source, and but he says that it is passing through ice, and has therefore its properties have been modified by passing through ice, and so it is the rays of the moon are cooling and pleasing. But we should note that he specifically says, where is it? He says that that this is the description. That he says, I am speaking. That is the description. I am speaking from the description. So he is not speculating on this. he's speaking from a description. He doesn't tell us where that description is given, but evidently there is such a description given somewhere, and he's speaking based upon that. So, so when Srila Prabhupada says in today's purport that he's making an educated guess, he's trying to understand in detail based upon what he has heard from authority. It's not just pure speculation. He's not just pulling things out of the air. It's based upon as he says, an educated guess, not just a guess, but an educated guess. His education is that he's studied the scriptural source materials. He's studied the words of the acharyas. That is the education. So based upon that, he's offering this idea. So it's not pure speculation. That's my point. And another point that he makes in that lecture is that the moon is the source of vegetation. So what is that we have from Bhagavad Gita? Bear with me while I find this now. We have in the 15th chapter, beginning with text 12 and 13. So Krishna says, Yad aditya gatim tejo jagat vasayate kliyam yach chandramasi yach chagnau tat tejo vidi mamakam. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. We're running short of time. Dang. Maybe I should not have read all those word-for-word synonyms. I'd like to read this purport, but I think I'm going to skip it because there's more material to cover. So Krishna is the source, the splendor of, and we also have in the third chapter, what is that? Rasoham apsukantiya pravasmi shashi surayaho. So Surya, the sun, pravasmi shashi surayaho. What is that? Paravas sarva vedeshu shabda ke purusham nishu. Sort of Kunti, I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the syllable Om in all the Vedic mantras. I am sound in ether, and I am the sound in ether and ability in man. So, so Krishna is the source of the light of the sun and the moon. But the moon is also described as being the source of vegetation, and we have that in the next text from the 15th chapter, text 13. Gam avishya cha bhutani dharya yaham ojasa pushnami kaushadhi sarva somo buddhva prasatmakaha. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I had lots to say on this topic. I have to keep it brief because there's more to cover. But very, very briefly, I've experimented with this. I don't know if any of you have ever played around with this kind of stuff, but in the absence of the light of the moon, vegetation does not do well. Vegetables will not have the same succulent taste. Flowering plants, the quality of the flowers gradually degrades, and I have grown all kinds of plants, food crops and flowers under artificial lighting for um, years at a stretch. You can do it, you can keep them alive, but gradually things start to go wrong. They gradually lose their health. They become subject increasingly to all kinds of disease and pestilence, and the quality of their fruits and flowers gradually begins to degrade. Eventually, they die. On the other hand, and those who have experience of deep meditation um, in a natural setting where there are lots of plants. You may have practical experience that in the full moonlight, the plants become jubilant. They derive all kinds of vitality from the moonlight, and you can perceive that in them if your senses are sufficiently purified. You can see this. It's extraordinary to see. But the plants are absolutely jubilant when they're exposed to full moonlight. Uh, there was a time when farmers used to time their plantings based upon the phases of the moon, and that was considered extremely important in order to have a successful crop. They understood to some extent the relationship between the moon and their crops. People don't buy that anymore because of science has become their new religion, and science is not advanced enough to be able to understand such things. Anyway, why did I bring all this up? Getting back to today's verse. Um, so my point was that science will say that the light of the moon is simply reflected from the sun. But if that were the case, then why would the moon have this special characteristic of being able to supply the juice of life to all kinds of vegetation? If that were true, um, then simply supplying sunlight or the equivalent of sunlight, because if the moon is reflecting the sunlight, then whatever light it reflects should be at least a subset of the frequencies of light generated by the sun. Um, it should be um, not greater than in its constituents than what is emanated by the sun. It's going to be equal or less if it's a reflection. Um, but what we find is that if you grow a crop only in sunlight, or even artificially produced light that exactly replicates the frequencies of light produced by the sun, the crop does not do well. But when it's exposed to moonlight, then it thrives. So there's something unique about the moon. It's somehow different. My point is that these facts support the assertion made here that the moon is generating its own light. Um, so Srila Robert says flames on the moon. Anyway, that was the point. I want to now digress and discuss a little bit about today's Vaishnav calendar events. We have two very important personalities whose disappearance days, today is the anniversary of those disappearance days. There's Rasikananda, who was an important Vaishnava in the time of Lord Chaitanya. And we have Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So that means ordinarily today would be a half-day fast, and we should be offering Pushpanjali in the temple room. I have not heard that there is any such plan, but that's typically the way. Usually, at least the prior four acharyas are honored on their appearance and disappearance days. We go back four. There are many more, obviously, beyond that, but it would become excessively burdensome if we were to honor all of them all of the time. So the last four in line typically is what is done. So let me see here. I will begin. God, gonna try to have a short description of Rasikananda that I'll go through quickly. Srila Rasikananda Dev. Oh, and this is from what is his name? Well, we'll come to that. I'll get that for you momentarily. But so Srila Rasikananda was born in 1512 of the Shakara era, 1591 AD, in the village of Rohini or Raini in the Midnapur district. This village is situated at the confluence of the Subna, Nareka, and Dolanga rivers. His father's name was Raja Achyutananda, and his mother Bhavani Devi. The Subarna Reka River crosses back and forth across the present-day Bengal Odisha border. The Midnapur district used to be a part of the Odishan kingdom. Raja Achyutananda was an Odishan of the Karana caste, the equivalent of the Kayashyas in Bengal. A Vaishnava is beyond the material qualities and should not be judged in terms of his caste origins. Raja Achyutananda and Rasikananda were born in the Karana caste in order to bless it. We can assume that Rasikananda Dev Goswami was a female servitor belonging to the conjugal loving mood in Krishna Leela. Though his spiritual master, Shyamananda Prabhu, had himself been initiated by Hridaya Chaitanya Goswami, who worshipped the Lord in the mood of friendship, he later took shelter of the conjugal mood due to the association of Jiva Goswami. Shyamananda Prabhu thus initiated Rasikananda into the worship of Radha and Krishna. Rasikananda was also known by the name Rasika Murari. In Prema Vilas, it is written that Shyamananda Prabhu had two principal disciples, one named Rasikananda and the other Murari, both of whom lived in Raini, whose glories were sung by everyone in Odisha. But Narahari Chakravarti indicates clearly in Bhakti Ratnakara that both names refer to the same individual. In the village of Raini lived the famous son of Achyutananda. He had two names, Rasikananda and Murari. Thus he was also known as Rasika Murari. He became learned in the scriptures in his childhood. Bhakti Ratnakara states this. We learned from the Bhakti Ratnakara that when the son of King Dasharat, Lord Ramachandra, was exiled from Ayodhya, he spent some time with Lakshmana and Sita in the village of Barijita, not far from Raini. He there established the Shiva Linga named Rameshwar. Achyutananda was a benevolent landowner who strictly followed religious principles and took good care of his subjects. His wife also had a good reputation as a faithful and loyal wife. Rasika Murari served his parents very expertly, bringing them much satisfaction. Bhakti Ratnakara also notes that he had a devoted wife named Icha Mayi Devi, or Icha Day, from the village of Gantashila. This village also has a certain history as a place where the Pandavas stayed during their exile. It was in this village that Rasika Murari first met his guru and received his grace, an event that has been elaborately described in the Bhakti Radhakara. So one day, while in Gantashila, Rasika Murari was anxious to find a spiritual master and went to a solitary place to meditate. He had just entered into a very deep trance when he heard a voice from an unseen source say, "Murari, you need to be anxious no longer. Your guru is Shamananda, and you will meet him very shortly. Take shelter of him, and your life will be successful." So that's extraordinary. Sikananda Prabhu Ki Jai. We will now discuss Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So Gauravir Baba Bhumesh Tvam Nirdeshta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Sri Jagannath Tayate Namaha. I offer my obeisances to Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who was adored by the Vaishnava community as a perfect realized soul, one who is dear to all the Vaishnavas and who is the foremost Vaishnava, Vaishnava Sarvabhauma. Through your divine vision, you designated the place where Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. Technical difficulty. Throughout the world, any devotee who comes in the disciplic succession following Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur daily remembers Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and prays for his mercy. His mercy. Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tandra Priya Sri Bhakti Vinoda Maha Bhagavata Vara Sri Gora Kishora Vara Hari Bhajanete Yanramoda Sri Varsha Banavivara, Sada Sevya Seva Para, Tanra Dayata Dasa Nama. I offer my respects to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, along with his devotees, to Baladev Vidyabhushana, and to Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, whose dear disciple is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and to Sri Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, a great devotee whose pleasure is to worship the Lord. Radharani is the daughter of Vrishabhanu and is always fixed in service to her Lord. I am the servant of him who is dear to her. There is also a Sanskrit version of the disciplic succession where Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is mentioned in the following way. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Prabhus Tata Shri Mayapura Damnastu Nirdeshta Sajana Priya. Next in the line is Jagannath Prabhu, who as Vaishnava Sarvabhauma, known as Vaishnava Sarvabhauma, very dear to the saintly, he designated the Sri Mayapur Dham. There were 4 dark ages in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage. One preceding the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one following the disappearance of the 6 Goswamis, the third after the disappearance of Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Prabhu, and Rasikananda, Deva Goswami, and the fourth following the disappearance Krishna's computer, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushana Prabhu. One should not think that the Madhva Gaudiya disciplic succession following in the spirit of Rupa Goswami has been disrupted on account of these periods of darkness. Sometimes spiritual masters in the disciplic succession are individual performers of solitary bhajana, Viviktanandi, and sometimes preachers who delight in increasing the size of the congregation, Gostyanandi. To the untrained eye, it seems that one can measure the strength of an acharya by the number of disciples he makes, but this is not an appropriate criterion for judgment. So we, following in the line of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we are Vajananandis, but the Goshtyanandis, excuse me, no, I got it backwards. We are Goshtyanandis. But our succession also includes the Vajananandis. And in recent history, we have Gorakishore Das Babaji, Jagannath Das Babaji. These are Vajananandis. They carry the message of Lord Chaitanya, the spirit, the realization. All of it is is embodied by them, but they are not very active preachers. They are mostly engaged in bhajan. Nonetheless, the transcendental message is passed from them to their disciples or disciple, and then sometimes blossoms in an individual who is inspired to preach. So sometimes the message appears to have disappeared. Sometimes it is more manifested and sometimes less manifested, but the lineage remains intact in spite of apparent periods of light and darkness. So Baladev Vibhushana's disciple was Uddhava or Udaran Das, the Vaishnava. This Vaishnava had a disciple also named Uddhava Das, who gave the renounced order to Madhusudana Das. This Madhusudana Das Babaji was famed throughout the Vaishnava world as the Siddha Madhusudana Das Babaji from Suryakunda. Madhusudana Das Babaji gave the Paramahamsa Vesh, which is Vaishnava initiation, but Babaji initiation, I mean to say, Vesha literally means dress. So at the time of initiation, you're given a particular dress. It's like a sannyasi gets a particular dress, and brahmachari gets a particular dress. Srila Prabhupada actually did this. He would hand a saffron dhoti to a brahmachari that he was initiating, and similarly for the sannyasis, they receive a lungi and so on. The sannyas vesha, including an upper cloth and a lower cloth, and for the Babajis, it's very, very simple. It's just either a small lungi or a loincloth, sometimes just kopan. Very, very simple, very, very renounced and austere. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur wrote, all of these Vaishnavas adopted the lifestyle of the Paramahamsa, preaching the path of pure devotion by their example. They are thus the objects of the greatest faith and reverence in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. From this statement of Srila Prabhupada, we learned that all these Bhajananandis are not only practice the anchorite life of solitary worship, but engaged in preaching activities as well, serving as acharyas. And there is an account of Jagannath Das Babaji's life living in Vrindavan, his meeting with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and a description of his designation of the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're running over time, and I don't want to take a lot of time here. I will say briefly that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was serving as magistrate, of course, in Orissa. But he wanted very much to be transferred to Navadvip. And he kept applying for this transfer, which was repeatedly denied. Eventually, seeing his extraordinary tenacity about this, his firm determination, he really, really was very serious about this transfer. He wanted to be situated at the birth site of Lord Chaitanya in the very worst way. So, recognizing this, the authorities eventually granted his transfer, and he was transferred to Krishnanagar. And immediately upon his arrival, he began researching the birth site of Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to understand where was the actual site, because he had discovered through his research that the town known as Mayapur at that time was only 100 years old, and therefore could not be the original birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he began poring over period texts from the time of Lord Chaitanya, as well as more contemporary records and a lot of older maps The the reason this is an issue is that the Ganga, the Ganges, and Lord Chaitanya's birth site is on the Ganga. So the Ganga changes course very regularly. It regularly floods, and when it floods, the flood is extraordinary. I don't know if you've ever witnessed this, but uh, the Ganga at other times of the year may be several hundred yards wide, but during the rainy season, it will be many miles wide. Even if you go to Allahabad, where the Ganges, or say the Triveni, where the Ganga and the Jamuna come together in Allahabad. Um, so at that point, it's still relatively small. Nonetheless, at a certain time of year, it expands to the limits of its banks, which are 5 miles wide. So there's an incredible amount of water, which carries incredible force. It moves a lot of material. Countless tons of earth are moved by the powerful currents of the Ganga, and so and it cuts channels as these currents move here and there, and the result is that the actual course of the Ganga shifts from one place to another. Sometimes towns are consumed by the Ganga, just washed away, and new tracts of land are established where large sand banks have been deposited. So the topography changes constantly, and the situation of towns along the Ganga move from place to place. So Bhaktivinoda was trying to find out where the original Mayapur was. From his research, it is a longer story. I'm just uh, trying to precipitate the major facts. So he narrowed down what he thought was the most likely site of Lord Chaitanya's appearance to a particular point on the banks of the Ganga, and um, going there, he found that there was a place revered by the local people, um, all kinds of people, even ghost worshippers who thought that this was someplace very special because all kinds of extraordinary events took place there. That's another long story. But there was a mound, a small hill, covered with luxuriantly growing tulsi babies, and so Bhaktivinoda Thakur was fairly certain that this was uh, very specifically the exact point where Lord Chaitanya had made his appearance. To confirm this, he brought uh, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji to see the site. Jagannath Das Babaji at that time was very, very old and invalid. He, by the way, lived, we don't know the exact date of his appearance, but he lived an estimated 140 years, which is incredible. But he was very, very old, and he could not walk. He Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as his dutiful disciple, would carry him around in a basket, which he held on his back, a woven basket, um, probably split bamboo or some such thing, woven into a basket. So Jagannath Das Babaji would be placed in this basket, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur would carry him around on his back in this basket. So they went to this particular site, and upon arriving and seeing this mound of Tulsi Devis, Jagannath Das Babaji immediately recognized and through transcendental vision, he was able to perceive that this was in fact the birth site of Lord Chaitanya. He immediately leapt out of the basket and began wildly dancing all over the area. It's an extraordinary story, but that's how the birth site of Lord Chaitanya was confirmed, and that site is now uh, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Memorialized by the temple built by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta at the Yoga Peeth. One other interesting point about Jagannath Das Babaji, he also he had contact with many different personalities, um, and obviously because his disciple was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he knew Bhaktivinoda Thakur's children, including Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Seeing that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was very adept as an astrologer, he asked Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to write um, a Panchika, to compile a Vaishnav calendar. So the Vaishnav calendar that we follow to this day, by which we know that today is the disappearance day of Rasikananda and Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, that Panchika, that Vaishnav calendar, was commissioned by Jagannath Das Babaji and compiled by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So we've gone 21 minutes over time. I apologize for that. There is so much we could spend hours talking about all these subject matters, and I wish there was time to do that. It is nectarian, but everyone's got service to get to, including me. So I'm going to stop there and ask if there are any comments or questions or anything at all. Crickets again. So these descriptions that I read are from Swami B.B. Tirtha Maharaj, who is a disciple of one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers. I don't recall whom. So he wrote this book, Sri Chaitanya and His Associates, which gives us lots of wonderful information on a whole bunch of special Vaishnavas. And I guess if there are no comments or questions, I'll end here. Is that okay? Oh, and I do want to apologize for the fact that this discussion today was very poorly organized, and I did a poor job of treating Srimad Bhagavatam today, but this just came upon me very suddenly. As I mentioned yesterday, I didn't even have time to read through the text today until I actually read them for class. Last time I read these texts was decades ago, so this is just going totally off the cuff, zero preparation. Let me see. We have a few comments here in the chat. Oh, yesterday was asking about the kusha grass on the moon. He says, I think the devotees sleep in on the weekends at Gita Nagari. Internet isn't working. Oh, crap. We've got to fix that. This is ridiculous. Daylight savings today. Spring forward, fall back. spring forward. So I don't know, maybe everyone's sleeping later today. I don't know. Well, as far as the Kusha grass on the moon, um, I commented on the what Srila Prabhupada had to say about that. I can't comment on anything that that hasn't been said by Srila Prabhupada. If it wasn't spoken by our acharyas, then then I have nothing to say. You know, I can only repeat what they have said and nothing more than that. So um, that's our process. So if they didn't elaborate, then anything that I might say beyond what they have spoken is speculation and should not be spoken according to Srila Prabhupada. So I'm not going to venture any further speculation. I mentioned what some things that Srila Prabhupada said about the illumination of the moon. Um, the fact that he feels that the light source must be some sort of fire, and that his educated guess, he called it, based upon the descriptions. We don't know where those descriptions came from, but this kusha grass evidently radiates light um, in a pleasing way. That's all we know. I can't offer anything more than that. I'm sorry. All right, so that's all I've got for now. Actually, I have lots more, but there's just no time. So I thank you for putting up with me, and I apologize once again. Hare Krishna, Prabhus, have a great day of remembering the Lord and His wonderful devotees, including um, our uh, uh, our great acharyas, including Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, the spiritual master of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Very wonderful personality. Hare Krishna. Oh, JP, momentarily unmuted. Did you have something to say?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I appreciate your class, and I think that it was great. Uh, and I was wondering, was Jagannath Das Babaji the Diksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Shiksha?
Uh, my understanding that he was actually Diksha Guru.
Okay.
I think that was in the description. Uh, or maybe I'm wrong. I'll look into that. But I took it for granted that he was Diksha, and pretty sure that's the case. Yeah, it was. I'll try to find out for certain. I'll get back to you, but that's my understanding. I could be wrong. I am often wrong. I'm usually wrong. Uh, so I'll look into it. Thank you for your question. That's important to know, I think.
I do have another question.
Fire away.
The disciplic succession, the acharyas that we have, the prominent acharyas that we have in our line, our Brahma Gaudiya line, um, how were they determined? Because it's interesting to me that you have such a variety of different ones, and it seems like as we get closer to our day, they are that maybe the last five or six are one disciple after another, and the others there's big breaks in between of time, time in between. Um, and some have one disciple, some have many disciples, but there were also so many other pure devotees that were also gurus, So I was curious, just how are how was this line actually determined?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's determined by tracing out the lineage going backwards. Um, because if you start from the top, there are innumerable branches. There's many, many, many branches. We're not the only branch. We're one branch on the Chaitanya tree. There are so many. So you start from the tip of the branch, and you head back towards the trunk. Um, and sometimes tracing out the lineage is challenging because there's not always so much information existing. Um, we're going back, for a long period of time and trying to find detailed information about a bunch of specific individuals. Sometimes you can't find much in writing, and we don't have the benefit of anyone living who was present at the time, so we're relying on literature and going back to a time when any literature was reproduced by hand. There was no printing press, and sometimes few copies of any given book are no longer extant. So a lot of information has been lost along the way, but there is um, a lineage. We know who the personalities are. We don't necessarily know that much about all of them. And So if you look in Bhagavad Gita, for example, there is a description of the lineage uh, going back to Krishna himself, and it's not very lengthy. You have Krishna, Brahma, Narada, and so on, and down to the more recent acharyas, and in between there's not that many, and there seems to be a big gap of time. There actually is no time gap, except for one. Um, the one gap is between Vyasadeva and Madhvacharya. There's a big gap of time there, and but the reason there's a gap there, it's actually not a gap. There's a long period of time, um, but it's not a gap because Madhvacharya um, took initiation directly from Srila Vyasadeva, and that's possible because Srila Vyasadeva is still physically present to this day in the Himalayas. He's still there at Badari Ashram. And you can go to Badari Ashram and you can see him if you care to. There's a process you have to go through. There's a prescription, a bunch of austerities that you have to perform, mantras to chant, fasting and meditating, this and that. There's various things you do, but you can have darshan of Srila Vyasadeva. So Madhvacharya did that, and he took initiation directly from Srila Vyasadeva. So there's a big gap of time, but the lineage is unbroken there. There's a direct link. Elsewhere in the descriptions, there appears to be a big gap. The gap is actually filled by numerous acharyas, but we don't know very much about them, or they are less prominent. And so, for the sake of brevity, uh, the lineage is described, mentioning only the most prominent of those acharyas, those that are who are most well known, uh, and or who are prominent because of their accomplishments and the fact that we somehow know more about them. Some of them evidently led a relatively quiet life. As we mentioned, there we have Bhajananandis in our lineage who did not do a lot of preaching, so they are significant but not prominent. They they carried the lineage intact, but they didn't do a lot to spread it. And so they appear to be less prominent, although they are not less significant. Anyway, when you trace the lineage from the tip of the branch, from the end of the branch back towards the trunk, it's usually a relatively simple matter to go from from each recipient of the message to their source, who initiated who, or who was the Siksha guru of whom that information is known. So it's possible to trace back. You can find a clear line of lineage going all the way back. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's my best effort anyway. Is that okay?
Very much so. Yes, thank you.
All righty then. Is there anything else? Because I'll take a little more time if anyone wants to, but I don't want to hold anyone up. All right then. We have gone to just about 8:41. That's extraordinary. And no one has left. I think that that's an indication of some kind of success. Anyway, thank you for patiently putting up with me, and I'm really gonna go this time. I'll let everybody go. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.